February 5th, 2016, around 9:30 a.m. at the New York Federal Reserve. Employees received 35 international wire transfer requests, sitting in the queue, waiting to be cleared. They've come from the Bangladesh bank, verified, authenticated, and clean. Nothing seems off, but just as the money is about to be sent, a junior compliance officer spots something strange. A payment request for $20 million, directed to a small non-profit group in Sri Lanka named Shalika Foundation. The only problem is that it's not spelled foundation. It says Fandation with an A instead of O and U. It's a typo, one letter, that's all. But it's enough. Enough to freeze the request, raise suspicion, trigger a manual review, and stop the largest digital bank robbery the world has ever seen. Almost. Because while this transfer is being checked, the other 34 are trying to slip through the cracks and move close to $1 billion from Bangladesh to individual accounts all over the world. And if they succeed, no one would know until it's far too late. The attackers would get away with the biggest bank heist of the century. In October 2014, an unsuspecting employee at Bangladesh Bank opened a seemingly routine email containing a job application attachment, which unleashed malware that quietly infiltrated one of the world's most secure financial systems. Over the following year, the hackers moved with surgical precision inside the bank's network, creating hidden backdoors and encrypted channels to maintain constant covert access. Their focus was on understanding the bank's internal operations, especially how it communicated with the global financial messaging system known as SWIFT, Society for Worldwide Interbank Financial Telecommunication, a platform trusted by over 11,000 institutions worldwide to securely transmit instructions for international money transfers. They reverse engineered the bank's specific SWIFT configuration, captured login credentials, and recorded keystrokes, allowing them to mimic legitimate transactions flawlessly. However, a critical obstacle remained: a physical printer operating 24/7 inside the secure SWIFT operations room, which printed hard copies of every transaction in real time. This paper trail was a vital security measure, enabling employees to manually verify transfers and detect anomalies quickly. Recognizing the printer as a major threat to their scheme, the hackers didn't simply disable it. Instead, they developed specialized malware designed to silently halt printing at the exact moment of the heist, making the absence of printouts appear as a routine technical glitch. This subtle deception wiped out any immediate evidence of their intrusion. All that remained was to create a network to funnel the stolen funds. They opened 5 primary accounts with fake identities, 4 quietly set up at the Rizal Commercial Banking Corporation on Jupiter Street in Manila, each seeded with small deposits of around $500 to avoid suspicion. The 5th account was established in Sri Lanka, serving as a backup safeguard. Beyond these, a web of additional offshore accounts was prepared across the globe, each able to receive millions in laundered money. Everything was ready for the heist of the century. On the night of Thursday, February 4th, 2016, as the last employees at Bangladesh Bank shut down their computers and left for the weekend, the hackers logged onto the computers and accessed the SWIFT terminal. The plan they had been working on for over a year was finally set in motion as the heist began. But what made this heist truly stand out was the timing. It was launched right as the weekend was beginning in Bangladesh. That meant the bank's systems would be unattended for at least 2 full days. Meanwhile, in New York, it was still Thursday morning, giving the Federal Reserve all of Friday to process transactions before their own weekend closure. And in the Philippines, where the money would be laundered, it was just before the start of the Chinese New Year, a holiday that would shut down most oversight systems and delay red flags. It's the next day. The Federal Reserve Bank of New York began receiving a sudden flood of SWIFT transfer requests, apparently from Bangladesh Bank. Altogether, 35 requests were submitted, totaling nearly $1 billion.
Bangladesh. It was the biggest cyber heist of all time.
The system started processing them immediately. Millions began moving from Bangladesh Bank's New York account to various accounts across the globe, most of them in the Philippines and Sri Lanka. As the transactions progressed, the hackers logged out. Their malware struck hard, wiping logs and destroying data. It hacked the SWIFT terminal's printer, stopping any physical records from printing. No paper trail, no evidence. After the weekend, the director of the Bangladesh bank started a routine check on the printer, but it was empty, thanks to malware the hackers had installed earlier. Zubair shrugged it off as a routine glitch, and he didn't pay much attention. That is, until multiple employees couldn't log into the SWIFT terminal, and 3 urgent messages from the New York Fed surfaced. They questioned a total of $951 million transfer request. Panic set in. Zubair tried calling New York, but it was Saturday in the US and no one picked up. Desperate, he began firing off emails and faxes, begging the Fed to halt all outgoing transactions. Then, the staff shut down servers and scrambled to contact intermediary banks, vital links in international money transfers, in a last-ditch effort to freeze the funds. The $1 billion in fraudulent transfer requests were already moving through the system until everything started to fall apart. The hackers had planned every detail with precision: timing, malware, even the bank's holidays. But they made 2 rookie mistakes that cost them hundreds of millions. The Federal Reserve's automated system flagged 30 out of the 35 SWIFT messages for manual review. But why? While hackers generated dozens of payment requests using fake names and shell foundations, they needed to make them sound legitimate enough to pass initial filters. While one of those names included the word Jupiter, which happened to match an Iranian cargo ship on a US sanctions list. That single word was enough to trigger alarms at the Fed, which sprung into action. Then, one of these 5 transactions, a $20 million transfer to Sri Lanka via the Pan Asia Bank, was immediately flagged, not due to a financial limit, but because of the typo. At first, an employee at the bank noted that the sum was suspiciously large for a small, non-government organization, especially for the country of Sri Lanka. Then an error misspelling Shalika Foundation as Shalika Foundation caught the eye, and Pan Asia's routing bank, Deutsche Bank, froze the transaction and sought clarification. That simple spelling error stopped the money cold and alerted Bangladesh Bank. The foundation later turned out to be a fake company, created only for the use of the heist. With that one transaction blocked, only 4 transfers, totaling $81 million, managed to clear, flowing into RCBC accounts in the Philippines. The transfers had been sent just before the Chinese New Year, when RCBC's compliance office was closed. No one was there to question the money. It was the perfect window. As investigators later uncovered, a large chunk of the $81 million, $30 million, was funneled to a Chinese national who is believed to be the man who planned the heist. Then, he vanished. To this day, no trace of him or the money has ever been found. That still leaves $51 million to be laundered. It didn't pass through shell companies or offshore accounts. It was walked straight into casinos, the kind of places where money flows freely and no one asks where it came from. 2 luxury casinos were used: Solaire Resort and Casino and Midas Hotel and Casino, both in Manila. Roughly $30 million flowed into Solaire, another $20 million into Midas. At the time, the Philippines had a gaping hole in its anti-money laundering laws. Casinos weren't required to report suspicious transactions. That meant no paper trail, no alerts, and no oversight once the money crossed the threshold. Investigators would later struggle to follow the exact path the funds took. But one thing was clear: this wasn't cash carried in duffel bags. These were electronic transfers, likely wired directly into casino-linked accounts. That way, the transactions looked like regular deposits from wealthy players, not stolen funds from a central bank halfway across the world. Once the money was in, the real laundering began. The hackers, or people working on their behalf, entered the casinos and requested private gambling rooms, also known as junkets. These rooms aren't for amateurs. They're secluded, quiet, and designed for high rollers who want privacy. And they don't come cheap. When the players walked in, they told the staff they'd be spending at least $10 million. Inside these rooms, the game of choice was baccarat, a favorite among money launderers. It's fast, it's repetitive, and statistically, it returns about 90% of your money over time. That makes it ideal if your goal isn't to win big, but to lose just enough to make your funds look clean. Play long enough, collect your chips, cash out at the window. Now the money has gone from a flagged wire transfer to casino winnings, much harder to trace. It's suspected that the people inside those rooms weren't trying to win at all. They were trying to blend in, act like VIPs, play a few dozen hands, smile at the staff, then walk out like nothing happened. By now, the Bangladesh Bank, the Federal Reserve, RCBC, and law enforcement agencies across 3 countries were all trying to freeze the flow of money. But inside the casinos, no one was watching, and no one was obligated to report anything. By the time authorities caught up, the chips had been exchanged for cash. It's believed they flew to Macau, a special administrative region of China known for 2 things: its massive casino industry and its resistance to foreign law enforcement. Once the money entered Macau, it was effectively lost. The hackers had started with $951 million in fake transfer requests. They ended with $81 million successfully stolen, and $51 million of that washed clean, right in front of the authorities. But how did they allow all of this? This is where the real masterminding begins. If you want to get exclusive breakdowns of how the world's smartest criminals pull off impossible heists, how investigators track them down, and see exclusive footage you won't find anywhere else, then click the first link in the description to unlock the vault of crime. 81 million is a lot of money, and it shouldn't disappear into thin air so easily. So how did those big institutions allow such a disaster to happen? Someone had to answer for it. The heist took place in early February, but Bangladesh Bank didn't notify the public or even other government branches until March. That delay raised immediate concerns. Critics accused the bank of trying to manage the crisis quietly, hoping to recover the funds before the breach became public. On March 15, 2016, Bangladesh Bank Governor Atir Rahman resigned under pressure. He wasn't implicated in the breach, but Finance Minister Abul Mal Abdul Muhith had publicly blamed the bank's leadership for negligence. Internal investigations exposed major weaknesses in the bank's infrastructure. The SWIFT terminal was found to be on a network shared with internet-connected machines, and one of the core components, the switch used to connect the bank to the internet, had been purchased secondhand for $10. Bangladesh bank officials accused SWIFT of failing to alert them to vulnerabilities in their integration tools. SWIFT responded that the attack succeeded only because of the bank's poor internal security. At RCBC, where the 4 fake accounts received the stolen funds, branch manager Maya Santos de Guido was arrested and charged with money laundering. She was later convicted and sentenced to over 30 years in prison. Several other RCBC officials were suspended or dismissed, though no high-level executives were prosecuted. The case led to tighter controls within SWIFT and sparked cybersecurity reviews across central banks worldwide. That leaves us with just one question: who did it? Maybe the true reason behind this is that it wasn't stolen by ordinary criminals at all. It was taken by a whole country, one with no intention of giving it back. After the Bangladesh bank heist, investigators dug into the malware the hackers left behind. Buried in the code were familiar tools, old tricks, and digital fingerprints that matched attacks seen before. This wasn't the work of ordinary criminals. It was something far more serious. All signs pointed to a secretive group called Lazarus, and Lazarus works for North Korea. North Korea is isolated, heavily sanctioned, and cut off from most of the global economy. But instead of surrendering, they adapted by turning to hacking when trade was no longer an option. According to the US government, North Korea has stolen over $3 billion through cyber attacks since 2016. In 2023 alone, they stole $1.7 billion in cryptocurrency, more than the value of all their legal exports combined. The money doesn't go to cars or luxury. It goes into ballistic missiles, nuclear weapons, and espionage operations. These aren't just lines of code or nameless hacks on a screen. They're part of a strategy built by a country with nothing left to trade and everything to lose. North Korea doesn't need to break into vaults or send soldiers across borders. It slips through firewalls, hijacks systems, and disappears with millions, sometimes in minutes. And if you want to understand how they're doing it, how North Korea continues to fund its weapons programs through a hidden global network of cybercrime, crypto laundering, and black market deals, we have put hours of work into an exclusive video inside our private community. Join us there if you want to go beyond the headlines and see how a country is financing war without ever making a trade. Despite the hackers' attempts to wipe all traces, investigators recovered malware linked to other global cyber attacks. The tools and techniques pointed to one source: Lazarus Group. According to the FBI, Lazarus had been targeting banks worldwide since 2015, following international sanctions that cut North Korea off from global funds. Unlike most nations, North Korea turned to cyber theft as a financial lifeline. In total, Lazarus is believed to have attempted to steal $1.2 billion, successfully making off with $122 million. But their $81 million stolen from the Bangladesh bank still remains one of the largest digital heists in history.